Okay, I wasn't going to make a video of this project, but I'm behind on video making this week, and I've already started this, so I'm going to jump in on this. What I've got, I'm making a Texas box, and I've glued several different kinds of wood together. It's all scrap wood, and my intent was to take that to the table saw, cut the bottom off of it like that, and then possibly drill a hole with a hole saw or cut it out. I hadn't decided yet. And then make a separate lid for it. And I went to the saw, set my table saw up to cut these off, and I ran it through several times and raised the blade a little bit at a time, finished cutting it with a hand saw when it got down to the center. But I went over there and just put the wrong side through the saw to start with. And so to save the project, decided I cut top and bottom off and use the top for the lid. And that's going to work. So what I normally do in these little boxes, I've made several of them, is now I'm going to figure out exactly how much of this I'm going to cut out. I'm going to do it on the scroll saw, but I'm going to leave me some meat in some of these areas, because what I do is I use a peg that fits on the bottom of the lid, fits down in the hole, and that's how I put the lid on. I've sold several of these. They seem to be popular. People like these Texas shaped stuff here in my little consignment shop. And that's what I was building this for, to put another one down. I'd sold the last one. So my next step is I'm going to outline exactly where I want to cut in here. I've got a number 9 blade. That's what I cut the whole outline with. This walnut right here, it's hard to tell because it kind of scorched it. And the reason it did, was right next to a knot. It's real dense, but it makes a very pretty pattern if you can work with it. I used it on some projects a year ago. I made a scabbard for a sword from a neighbor, and that was the top ring around the scabbard. It looked really nice when it's polished up. But that's the leftover from that, and that's the reason it's scorched, because I'm going to cut a lot of that out and I'll sand the rest of it. So let me figure out exactly where I'm going to draw that, where I'm going to cut it, and I'll figure out where I'm going to put my pegs. And what I do, I drill the hole in the body, and then put this on it and run through with the drill to mark where the peg goes on the lid. And use like a 1/8 inch or an 1/8 inch dowel, something like that, to put a couple of pegs on it to hold it in place. So I'm going to draw that, get it to the scroll saw, and I'll cut the center of that out, and then we'll worry about those holes. Okay, so I cut that out. Didn't get real fancy with it, but I left me some strength in it. Try to get no thinner than 1/4 inch anywhere. I'm going to drill a hole right here and right here. I got some 3/16 dowel, and I got a 3/16 bit in my drill press. I've double checked it for squareness. And I'm going to put right the center of there, right in there. Then I'll take this over and put it on there and run the drill bit through and mark just a little bit where I want those little pegs to go. And then I'll do a little sanding and glue the bottom on, glue the base on. I got one spot to fix where the table saw gouged it a little bit, but I can fix that. It's in a piece of plywood. There was some Baltic birch plywood that's in that, and I can patch that up once I get it glued on. But you can kind of see the pattern in that some of that walnut. Even on this lid, you can see I got right at the edge of the knot. There's a little bit of a crack there. Anyway, I'm going to go drill this, and then I'll mark the top and figure out how long of a peg I want to put on it. So I got these holes drilled in this, and then I put this on the top of it, put it back under the drill press on the bottom of it, ran the drill bit through so I'd match those holes up. Of course, just because you did that doesn't mean that the little peg's going to glue on straight. That's the next critical point. I'm going to super glue those in. I got to make sure they're perfectly straight. But everything's matching up real well so far. I think it's going to be okay. I've done 2 or 3 like this, and they're all a little bit different. And they all work pretty well if you get them lined out right. All right, I got the pegs in the lid. It's fitting pretty good. slightly off, just a hair. I'm going to sand that flush. You can hardly tell it. It's not even showing in this area, but a little bit of sanding. I have to do a final sanding before I finish it anyway. So that's going to work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue the bottom on it. And then with some finishing, some sanding and finishing, this will be a finished project. Okay, I got the bottom of the box glued on. I got this where it works. I'm going to do a little work on that. It needs to be sanded and waxed a little bit, but it goes together really nicely. I'm going to take the flexible pad sander, leave it together like this, go over and put everything matched up nicely and get some of the marks off of it. And then I'll put a finish on it. Got a few little places to repair some cracks in it. It's easily done when using a patchwork like this. It makes it look normal. But let me get over there and sand it and see if I can make it look okay. So I had two little places. One's where the table saw blade got against that piece as I was going through. Cut a little gap there, so I found a piece of wood that was in, that's some Alti birch plywood. So I found a piece of wood and glued in there. And then I had a little same thing happen here. And I sanded that down and shaved it down where it fit in there. That's glued in. I'll let that glue set, and then I'll trim that off and sand everything down. And so there is pretty much the finished project. Got a finish on it, sanded it pretty good, got it looking pretty good. So I like the way it looks. Lid works good. Looks good front and back. You see right here's where I patched it, and right here's where I patched it. That one stands out a little bit, but it's kind of a patchwork anyway. So anyway, that's done, and turned out about as good as I expected. I'm not disappointed in it. It looks really nice right there, like the way that turned out. Wish the whole box was like that, but that's all of that I had. This was all just scrap that I glued together. I glued together in 2 layers and then laid glued the layers together. And I used up a bunch of 3/4 inch scrap that I had. They're getting smaller and smaller, so I'm having to make smaller projects out of them. But anyway, that's the end of this little video. That's my little Texas box. Hope you like that. This will go in my box making playlist and my Texas playlist. So if you like that, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. I'm getting requests to make different states in bowls and what have you. So I may try my hand at that. One Pennsylvania and one Louisiana. So I may give that a try here in the next few weeks. I've got a project in the next week or two out of Carol Rothman's bowl book. It's not a bowl or a vase. It's what she called a jar, a ginger jar. And I had to get some maple in. I think I've got it gathered up. I'll have to do inventory on it. And it's got a jar with a lid, and it's got a little base that I'm going to make out of a Purple Heart. Anyway, that's my plan. I may not have that ready for next week, but in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I should have that done. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you like that. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe and see what I make next. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.